morning, Leslie.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. It is nice to have you back with us again. This is the 8th session of the video conference lecture for English teacher training. Today, we invite Professor Dr. Sisak Jamonman.
All right. Good morning. Nice to meet you.
Chief Executive Officer, College of Internet Distance Education, Assumption University. He will give a few words of greeting. Please.
Good morning, Leslie. I'm so delighted to join the event. I've heard so much about what you have been doing. I think it's great. We get the Thai people in Bangkok and Hua Hin to learn directly from you without having to travel. This is a very good example of e-learning. And we are organizing a conference on e-learning for knowledge-based society in Bangkok. I wish you could be here in person, but anyway, we'll tape the event today and show at the conference.
Well, thank you. It's nice you could join us today. We're very happy to meet you.
Okay. Good morning. Today is the 8th session of the teacher training program co-organized by the Foundation, the American Embassy, and the University of Oregon, Thai TESOL, and Chulalongkorn University. And today's session is titled Integrating Culture in the Language Classroom. And our guest speaker today is Professor Trish Pashby from the University of Oregon. Over to you, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that delightful welcome. We both wish that we could be with you in person or that you could be with us, but we're very happy to be with you virtually in the 8th in a 10-part series on second language acquisition for English teachers in Thailand and across the Mekong Peninsula. Welcome to our usual guests, our usual teachers that we have with us in Bangkok and Hua Hin, and a big welcome to those of you in schools outside the studios who are following along with us here tonight or this morning as well. We have a few announcements to make. With us is our special guest today, Trish Pashby, a longtime colleague of mine at the university. She's going to talk to us about culture. I think, first of all, we saw a little bit of the homework from last week from Hua Hin, some excellent examples of content-based instruction and using some of the graphic organizers that we practiced with last time. We'll be coming back to those graphic organizers again today and looking at a different one and a little bit different use of one. Before we do that, let's see what Bangkok has to show us. So, Ajahn Naraporn, you had some examples from Bangkok, I believe.
Yeah, 2 examples. One from Ajahn Plernpit and Ajahn Dalat, the graphic organizers. Please, Ajahn Dalat.
Okay.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, from last time, our homework is about compare and contrast, and we did at our student at school. You can see.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to read it to us as you go because it might be a little difficult for some people to see on their television screens.
Okay.
Beautifully printed.
We plan to do the project work in this semester, and we just start doing with the student, one student, the younger student that my student told you last time about that. And this is to let them survey the school, and we will do like their favorite places at school. And they can present it very well, like a library and language center at our school, and they can show and present. You can see the picture. Yeah, it's lovely.
Very nice.
About the thing that they like. This is a language center, and they said that different from the school library because it's very nice and friendly staff in there. Okay, and the second sport is about the exercise. At our school, we have swimming pool and football field, and the boys, they love football field because they think that they can get more friends from the football field, and they don't bring a lot of stuff, just play football anytime that they like. It's very nice to hear from the student. And you see that, for example, for the swimming pool, and they wrote why they like it. It's nice. And we see that the problem is about spelling, but I think that we will do next time about that. Okay. And the other thing is about the garden, the school garden. At Nakhon Sawan School, there are a lot of garden outside the building, and the students think about now and in the future. And I think that it's lovely to hear from them that they want the music in the garden during lunchtime, and they think that they need more drinking water. So this is just start to do the project, and the next time we hope to share you more about the project that More 1 and More 4 will do together. Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Wow, this is fantastic. You did just a really great job of connecting both language skills and content, and including student experiences and interests. So it sounds like you learned something about what they're interested in as well. I would like to go to a school grounds that had music playing outside. That's a great idea.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those. Okay. Are we ready to move into our content for today then? I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay. Lynette, could you give us our first screen just so we can do a quick overview? So today, we're talking to you, we did a few announcements. We'll do a brief overview. We'll have our first activity, which is going to be a brainstorming activity. Then Trisha's going to give us some information with a little bit of guidance, sort of overview on what is culture in the classroom look like. We'll do some example slides of a very nice project on culture that I saw when I was in Thailand just last month. And we'll also finish with a second activity and then our usual sorts of concluding remarks. And if people have questions and answers, and if there's time, then we'll do those as well. Okay. Thanks, Lynette.
Leslie, sorry, we've got some problem about voice here in Bangkok, but now it's okay. And in fact, we have one more teacher who would like to show her students' work for just 1 minute. What do you think?
I think that's most important. Please show us the students' work. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is what she calls a matchbox.
Okay.
And you can see.
Okay, great.
This is matchbox. Hello.
Hi, we're ready. Okay.
Okay. This is matchbox. This is matchbox is made by my student. The student only make the question and the answer, and when they match correctly, if the answer is correctly, it make the light turn on, like this. No one is too early to learn, but it's met with the answer is ไม่มีใครแก่เกินเรียน so the light turn on, like this. So the student can learn and can enjoy with this question, like this. Inside of the box, the student connect the cable, the question and the answer together, and connect with the battery, and make the cable outside this, like this. Like this. Okay. Make the light turn on. And I have another box. This box will find the opposite word. But this is just to make the sound. If handsome is ugly, it's made the sound like this. So this can buy and sell like this. Strong and okay. I made the student work in team, and they know they will know the vocabulary, and they play and learn by using this matchbox. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajahn Supatra. So isn't that wonderful, Leslie?
Okay. This is a really nice example of a student project. And I think some of the strengths of it are that you have English incorporated in it, and you also have electricity and wiring. So you're enabling your kinesthetic learners, your people who like to do projects with their hands, to work with their hands and construct something. And if you do the whole project in English, then you have opportunities to talk not only about the English vocabulary on the top, but wires and buzzers and boxes and connections and all kinds of supporting vocabulary as well. So
maybe you've already done this, but the students could maybe write up a set of directions or explain in English how the other students can use it to practice their English further.
Yeah, procedural kinds of knowledge. Really good, yeah. Very nice. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Are there any other homework projects from Hua Hian?
I think that's all. Yeah, you can start now. Thank you.
We can start, Leslie, but that's a lovely
Okay,
project.
great. That was time well spent. Thank you. Okay. We're going to just jump right into an activity here today, aren't we? Okay. So for our first activity, we're going to jump right into it. Were you able to get handouts of the network tree? It looks like this. Lynette, can you show them that screen for a minute? Kunsaraba and Narapan, were you able to get those off the web for your participants?
No, we haven't.
No.
Yeah, made that one, but that's okay. Yeah, we can just. Copy
We can just draw it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that.
We have got it. Right, fine.
Okay, here's the instructions, and we'll do one on our camera so we can show you too. But what we're going to ask you to do is work in your groups as usual, and choose a unit or a theme from your text. So it can be from any text, it can be any sort of popular topic, or it doesn't have to be your text. It could be your curriculum, and list as many matching cultural topics to go with it as you can. So this is a brainstorming exercise. Okay, so we're going to work in groups, and before you get into your groups, Trish and I will take just a minute here, and we'll do one of these with you on the document camera. Okay, all right. Lynette, can we switch to our document camera, please? All right. So if we've got a network tree, I'm going to make sure I'm on it here. And this is a simple organizer. You don't have to have the handout. You can do it like this. I'm going to make sure, there it is. It's on my document screen, more or less straight. All right. Shall we do this one? Why don't you talk me through it, and I'll draw it.
One of the homework examples that we saw earlier, I want to say tonight, this morning, was careers. And so why don't we use that one? So and this is a pretty common topic, I think, in a lot of our textbooks and curriculum. So careers would be the larger theme or topic. And then what we want to do is we want to explore all the possible ways we can bring culture into a lesson on careers. So, for example, choosing careers might involve a lot of cultural information.
Okay, so choices.
Yeah, choices. And then we might start exploring things like family. If under choices, explore the role family plays in what career a person chooses. Another area might be gender. Male, female, we have a lot of stereotypes in there, or maybe there really are barriers as to what jobs gender can have. The area that you live in, the region, is something to explore also. And then perhaps an even more interesting area would be, we can call it attitudes toward work or jobs.
Beliefs, maybe.
Beliefs, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. And in there might be an exploration of the amount of effort people put into their job, the amount of time as opposed to time they spend in recreation or with their families. That might be an interesting exploration. Another might be, and this really brings in a lot of the language, relationships on the job. So relationships between management and employees, relationships between colleagues, clients, customers, and then under those would be the language that we use, the level of politeness. Conflicts arise. How do you resolve conflicts? So we're just brainstorming here. We're just throwing out all the kinds of areas we might start looking into to come up with an interesting culture lesson to add to our unit.
So, for example, if I were thinking in terms of my students, and my students are 16 years old, and they're getting ready to sort of graduate and choose careers, and a 16-year-old in the U.S. versus a 16-year-old in Thailand. So, what kinds of things are their families going to say to them? Is my father in the U.S. going to say the same thing to me as they are to you? What do my grandparents say? How important is money? What about prestige? What about access to education? Those kinds of
choosing universities.
Choosing universities, or not. We have a lot of people that choose not to go to universities.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So what we're just trying to do there was just model for you. There's no one right answer here. And I think what implied in the discussion tonight is when we're talking about culture, we're actually talking about comparing cultures and heightening awareness of our own culture as well.
Definitely.
So what we'd like you to try is a network tree and thinking about your own culture. So if you're in Thailand, that's probably going to be Thai culture, although we recognize that there are a lot of families from other countries and regions around the Mekong Peninsula. If you're outside of Thailand, in China or Laos or Vietnam and following along with us, or your cultural heritage is another identity, then you can use that one. And then choose another culture to compare it to. And we're from the U.S., so we tend to gravitate toward that, but it doesn't have to be the U.S. It could be another Asian culture. It could be another English-speaking culture like Britain or Canada or Australia. It's completely flexible depending on what you're already doing or planning to do in your own classrooms. Okay, so is the task clear? Work in groups, choose a unit or a topic, use the network tree, brainstorm as many cultural topics to go with that as you can.
Okay.
Not a point in is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to put my slide up of the network tree so people can see it.
Yes, please. Yeah. I can repeat the instruction again.
Okay.
ค่ะ ท่านอาจารย์คะอาจารย์เลสลี่ให้ลองทำกิจกรรมแรกนะคะ activity แรกก็คือว่าให้ทำงานเป็นกลุ่มนะคะ2 คน 3 คน 4 คนก็ได้แล้วก็เลือก topic นะคะที่อาจารย์สนใจที่คิดว่าเด็กในห้องเราจะสนใจหรือว่า topic ของบทต่อไปที่อาจารย์จะกลับไปสอนก็ได้นะคะแล้วก็ลองนึกถึง cultural topics นะคะหัวข้ออะไรที่จะเกี่ยวกับโยงกับวัฒนธรรมซึ่งเกี่ยวข้องกับท็อปิกนั้นนะคะให้มากที่สุดเท่าที่ทำได้โดยใช้ Network Tree อย่างตัวอย่างที่อาจารย์ทำให้ดูนะคะอย่างตัวอย่างที่อาจารย์ให้ก็อย่างเช่นเรื่อง Career เนี่ยนึกถึงอะไรบ้างอย่างที่อาจารย์เลสลี่ทำให้ดูก็คือ Choice ด้านหนึ่ง Attitude ด้านหนึ่ง Choice การเลือกอาชีพนะคะมีความเกี่ยวโยงวัฒนธรรมยังไงถ้าคนไทยเด็กไทยใช่ไหมคะที่จบใหม่เนี่ยถ้าเขาจะเลือกอาชีพอะไรเนี่ยนะคะจะเกี่ยวข้องยังไงอย่างเช่นบทบาทของครอบครัวผู้ปกครองที่จะมีส่วนในการเลือกอาชีพหรือเปล่านะคะเพศนะคะอาชีพนั้นเนี่ยเลือกไหมว่าเพศหญิงเพศชายหรืออะไรอย่างเงี้ยทัศนคติอย่างนี้เป็นต้นนะคะอันนั้นคือหัวข้อ career แต่อาจารย์จะเลือกหัวข้ออะไรก็ได้แล้วก็หาหัวข้อวัฒนธรรมมาโยงนะคะให้เวลาสัก3 นาทีได้ไหมคะอาจารย์ค่ะ Leslie I give them 3 minutes per group is that okay
Perfect.
Okay, Leslie from Bangkok, we have 2 samples to show.
Okay, let's start with the Bangkok samples and then we'll check in with Hua Hin. We're ready.
Thank you. The first one is Mother's Day, right? The topic.
Right. Our group
Mother's Day.
make decision about Mother's Day. In Thailand, we always have Mother's Day on the 12th of August. So the network 3.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Can
Wow.
you see? Yeah. So the network 3, the branches, many branches. So we have time.
Got it.
About 12th of August of every year. The goal of Mother's Day is to pay respect to Mother. And the activity, we have two sides. In classroom, we have many competition about education competition. We have poem, speech, exhibition, writing, and painting about Mother. And then we have symbol. The jasmine flower is a symbol of Mother's Day. Oh, sorry, the activity I didn't mention is outside classroom. Everybody around Thailand will do this activity, like a pay respect, give jasmine to mothers, make a merit. Sorry.
Good.
In the morning, we make a merit. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I'll let you comment.
Yeah.
That was wonderful, very impressive.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions about it. The last 2 points you talked about giving gifts and making merit. Could you tell us a little bit more about what kinds of gifts a Thai person gives his or her mother and how you make merit on Mother's Day?
About person giving a gift, sometimes we give our mothers like a clothes or gold, like that. But for children, to pay respect at school, they will give a jasmine garland. And to make a merit, we give some food for monks in the morning. We invite monks in some place to gathering people and to make a merit together, like that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and we gathering.
So what would be
mothers.
really interesting would be to perhaps choose Mother's Day in another culture, and then for the students in the class to find out what day is it, what are the goals, what are the symbols, what are the gifts. So that's an excellent topic, an extension
Very
of
exciting, wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, and Bangkok has a second example?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Okay.
The topic is house.
House.
Hi, Leslie.
Yes.
Yes. This topic we have to do like your network tree, what we call mind mapping. My student always use the topic like house, and every topic that we want to know, we choose the topic first, and then like you network plans, like the example about house. The choice, I think that we can choose about place or type or region or facility, material, because we have a lot of style of Thai, and we want to know, we can compare like your European house and Thai house, or country house and city house. We are different, so you can use your map to compare these two. And about the attitude, we can say about location, and your European location and Thai Asian location different. We should about appropriate
for the weather, like your house like a block to your cold weather. The wind is too strong. And Thai style, we have, you can see that Thai style house for the wind come. We are hot country, so we build the house to the wind can pass. Because the facility we have now we have an air condition, but we don't have heater like your house, so we can compare this for the students. Thank you.
And believe.
Good. Well, I like the topic of house because that lends itself really well to not only text, but also visual imagery. So for your lower level learners, they can use pictures, they could use photographs, they could use images. As part of that, you've got the exterior of the house and the interior. And as you move into things like attitudes, you start to touch on not just the physical structure, but what makes it a home. What are the, you said beliefs and attitudes, what makes a house a home. You also did a really nice timeline contrast and compare, which we're going to be talking about later today. What's a traditional house, or what are traditional beliefs? What does a contemporary or a more modern house look like? So
good point. So there'd be the traditional Thai house and then the more modern Thai house involved in that comparison also.
Or the traditional U.S. house, which is a log cabin, also made of wood. And so there'll be some interesting parallels there, too. Very nice. Very nice. Thank you. Okay, how about Hua Hin? Do you have one to share with us also?
Yes, we have about 2 examples. The first one is on education, and the second one is making merits.
Good morning from Thailand. This is an example from Hua Hin. The topic is education for M6 who would like to go to study in the university. That the reason to choose the field that they want to study is
Uh-oh. Okay. It looks like maybe...
for a moment, right?
There we go.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes,
right.
we can.
Okay, so that's education. The topic is education. And there's choices and value and belief that why the student choose to study in each field, that because of family attitude and peer groups influence and prestigious career. That because their parents want them to study in this field, so they choose to study. And maybe because of their friend choose to study in this faculty, so they follow their group. And the next one is choices. Okay, so this is choices.
Good. Yeah.
Facility and technology does it. They think that if the university got a high technology, so they choose to study there. And the finance, salary, they would like to get a high money. And we talk about the location, that someone choose to study in the city, but someone choose to study in suburb. And work or training opportunity, that is from Hua Hin's. Okay.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice. These are things that you can do as a whole class, kind of like Trish and I modeled for you in the beginning. These are things your students can do in groups, just like you did tonight. Education is a great example. That's one that will resonate well with your secondary level students in all the schools.
Right.
Good. Okay, did you have a second example as well?
Yes, ready now. beyond merit making. Please.
Thank you very much.
We're having a musical chair here.
All right.
Good. Our topic is making a merit because Thai it's a culture in Thai. Thai people like to make a merit. Look at our choices. We make a merit for monks, children. Thai people make a merit for monks, for children, orphans, or receptions. Or we make a merit for poor or old people. The attitude for finance, they have a lot of problem for money, about money, wasteful or religious. That's all.
Okay, very interesting. The whole concept of making merits is an interesting one for those of us outside the Thai culture as well. We have sort of a concept of good deeds or
giving charity,
volunteerism, those kinds of things. So some very interesting parallels and contrasts.
This got me very excited because when I think of making merit in Thailand, I know about bringing things to the temples for the monks. But I wasn't thinking about these other areas because I gave them a different name. I thought, oh, that's charity or volunteer work. So this has been an interesting little lesson for me. You really opened my eyes.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Good. Good. We're going to look at a project later on tonight through iEarn that brings classrooms together around these kinds of cultural topics. So if this is something that interests you, you might want to take note of that later on tonight. And now I think we're ready to jump into the meat of it here.
All right. I don't know how well I can follow those wonderful projects. I'm very impressed with what you started with. I don't know if I was officially introduced to everybody. I'm not used to this medium, but let me introduce myself. My name is Trish, and I'm very happy, very honored to be here. I should say Sawasdee Ka also to everybody. I had the great pleasure of living in Thailand in the early 90s. For 2 years, I was in Bangkok, and I remember those 2 years as probably the happiest of my life. So it's very, very exciting for me to be here with you today. Thank you. I'd like to start today by giving you one of my favorite definitions of culture, and this is from a man by the name of Banks. He's quite famous in the area of multicultural education in the U.S., and is it on their screen? No, oh, they're working on it now. Okay. It'll be coming up on your screen in a moment. One of the things Banks has worked hard to do is move beyond very simple ideas of what culture is in the classroom. So move beyond just, going over famous holidays, and what people wear on those holidays, or what people eat, and going beneath that and finding the reasons why people do things and how it's changing, et cetera, et cetera. So are we...
I think we can keep going, yeah.
Okay. Let me go ahead and
you had a nice definition.
Okay,
and
let me share it with you.
Some of the things that we started to see tonight.
Exactly.
People definitely were moving in that direction.
Yes. No, I think they get it. So it fits in with that. Culture is the shared beliefs, symbols, and interpretations within a human group. The essence of a culture is not its artifacts, tools, or other tangible cultural elements, but how the members of the group interpret, use, and perceive them. And I think we had a nice combination of that with the examples we saw. I wanted to share a small one with you. It's really no better than the ones you were showing earlier, but when I was thinking about this talk, I thought about, some symbol of Thailand. And I thought, often in books about Thailand, we'll see a picture of a tuk-tuk. Am I saying that right? A tuk-tuk in Bangkok. And I rode them on a number of occasions when I lived there. And I've seen in the souvenir shops, little plastic tuk-tuks. And that would be an example of just an artifact from the culture. And what we'd want to do is move beyond that and start exploring some aspects of it. So, for example, we can start thinking about, well, who drives the tuk-tuks? Where do they come from? Who rides in the tuk-tuks? How do they feel about riding in the tuk-tuks? What kind of communication do you need in order to ride a tuk-tuk? Are there any sort of social issues or economic issues or political issues that are involved in that too? And also, what about misunderstandings, maybe cross-cultural misunderstandings that might take place in or around a tuk-tuk? I remember when I lived in Thailand, one of my American friends a tuk-tuk driver got very angry with him. And he wasn't quite sure what he'd done, but he thinks it related to him putting his camera on top of the tuk-tuk, and it was above the tuk-tuk driver's head, but he wasn't sure. And so I think that could be an interesting area to explore also.
We don't have tuk-tuks in the United States.
No,
so here at all.
Yeah.
So forms of transportation in general are very culturally rich topics, essentially.
Definitely. Let me move on to some other aspects of culture. Culture is learned. Culture is transmissible. It's dynamic. It's always changing. We need to remember that. It doesn't stay, if you open a textbook from 1950, all of those things in there are not going to hold true for today. It's very different, as you know, and that came up in your examples also. One other point I'd like to make about it is that culture is quite tricky, and that it shifts in and outside of our reflective awareness. And I learned so much about my own culture when I lived in Thailand for 2 years. Because when I was living in the U.S., I just assumed that everything I did and everything I thought was part of me, and it was the real world. And when I went into another culture, I started to understand that, oh no, these things aren't necessarily me or true of all people. That's just U.S. culture. That's framing how I see things. So there's always something to learn about culture. Every day we can learn something new about our own culture and then about others.
I think this is something that you can explore fairly easily with secondary learners, especially. Kids who are in their teens or younger have great imagination still. So things like role-playing or imagining or putting yourself in the other person's shoes, you can try to get little glimpses of that for your students as well, I think.
Today, with one of my students, not from Thailand, but from another country, we were role-playing job interviews. And she did a wonderful job, but she looked so serious and almost angry through the whole interview. And so I had to say, you need to smile a little bit when it's appropriate, because I'm starting to get a little bit afraid here. And she was very surprised, because she thought, job interview, it's very serious. I cannot smile. But in this culture, we need to see some smiles just to feel comfortable with the person. And we have to, and you know this, I could see from your brainstorming that culture encompasses many areas. 4 of these would be aesthetic area, and that would be your film, your music, your literature, sort of the classic areas of culture, what many people think of when they hear the word culture. Sociological, and that would involve the organization and nature of the family, interpersonal relations, customs. I saw a lot of those on your charts, on your graphic organizers. Semantic, which is the way we look at the world, the way we put ideas into categories and give them meaning. I'm going to share one example with you. This happened when I was living in Thailand also. I had a friend visit from Europe, and she didn't know very much about Thailand, and she was curious about the royal family in Thailand. And I was so excited that I'd been able to learn so many things about Thai culture and the royal family, and I started to explain. But she just said, oh, it sounds just like royal families, in other countries. And I wanted to say, I was saying, no, very different, very special relationship. But it didn't fit into her concept of how that worked. And so that's one example of that. Also, of course, pragmatic and sociolinguistic area, and that would include all those linguistic skills, the words we use, nonverbal communication, everything that we use to get our messages across. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about that.
Maybe we could give Naraporn, would you like a few minutes to recap that? Do you want to do a summarizing at this point?
Yes, thank you. อาจารย์ครับในช่วงนี้อาจารย์ทริชก็ได้พูดถึงนิยามของคำว่า culture นะคะอาจารย์ก็บอกว่า culture เนี่ยไม่ได้เป็นเฉพาะว่าสิ่งที่จับต้องได้เท่านั้นแต่ว่าเป็นอะไรที่เกี่ยวกับความเชื่อนะคะเกี่ยวกับการตีความนะแล้วก็การรับรู้วัฒนธรรมนะของชาตินั้นๆนะแล้วก็ซึ่งสามารถที่จะถ่ายทอดกันได้เรียนรู้กันได้นะแล้วก็ culture เนี่ยอาจารย์ก็บอกว่าไม่อยู่นิ่งนะก็มีการเปลี่ยนแปลงตลอดเวลานะซึ่งอันนี้เนี่ยก็จะเป็นจุดหนึ่งซึ่งน่าศึกษาแล้วก็อาจจะนำเข้ามาสู่ในบทเรียนของเรานะให้นักเรียนของเราเนี่ยได้เรียนรู้ภาษาอังกฤษเนี่ยผ่าน culture ได้ค่ะThat's all for now.
Okay. How are we doing on sound and visuals? Are we coming through clearly enough for you?
Yes, indeed.
Are we talking too fast?
I think you're about right, yeah.
About right. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to take a small cultural break here, and I have some pictures to show you, and perhaps some people in our viewing audience will find them familiar. I told you that later in the presentation tonight we would talk about a really exciting cultural project, one that I got to see when I was in Thailand just recently. This is a picture from the Islamic school in Bangkok, where the English teacher has a large project going as part of the IEARN program, and this is a cross-cultural exchange, and these are the students and the sponsors from the U.S. Embassy and the teacher. And if you'll notice, if you look down toward the bottom of the picture, there are some non-human forms in there as well, and these are teddy bears. And these are teddy bears from Thailand, Japan, and the United States. And what the students do is they mail the teddy bears to a partner class in another country, and the teddy bears go home at night with the students. And when the teddy bears go home, the children also, or the students, take a journal with them. And they talk about what the teddy bear eats, and where the teddy bear goes, and what does he like to do in the evenings, or she, what time does she go to bed, what does she wear. And this teddy bear goes home with 20 or 30 or 40 different kids over a period of time and has a lot of adventures. Here's a close-up. Here's the Thai teddy bear. Can you guess which one that one is? The lovely pastel pink with the beautiful golden silk ribbon. And the U.S. teddy bear is the one, of course, with the U.S. flag on it. And then these are the students who sent the teddy bear and then got it back. Now, this is a project that takes place over a period of many months. The students talk online by email. They can exchange letters. They can choose their forms of communication. And they exchange these journal entries back and forth as well. So the teddy bear is like a foot in the door. It opens the door for communication that wouldn't otherwise happen. And it introduces surprises and new information. And what do you mean the teddy bear ate bananas for dinner last night? Why did the teddy bear eat bananas for dinner? We don't eat bananas for dinner. What do you mean the teddy bear went skateboarding? Where did the teddy bear skateboard? Where are the skateboarding parks? So it really encourages young people to engage in topics that are of interest to them. And on projects that I've seen in Egypt and in Thailand and in other places around the world, students' English improves. There's no test, there's no translation, but they are really motivated to communicate, and they find a way to do it. So if this is a kind of project that interests you, I would encourage you to look at the IEARN website. It's the International Education and Resource Network. It's a nonprofit organization. It has an excellent reputation. It has projects going in over 200 different topics. Teddy bear is just one. I was recently in Egypt, and the schools in Cairo were working on one for making merits, for doing good deeds in your community and with your family. So there are a lot of topics. Some of them are very hands-on oriented. So the teacher tonight in Hua Hien, who showed us examples of the boxes with the electrical wires, there's some very nice projects around things like that, making robots, doing electrical projects, growing plants, and exchanging ideas and concepts as the project progresses.
I just wanted to add, we had a teddy bear at our house for a couple of weeks.
Oh, you did?
And yeah, a number of years ago when I lived in San Francisco, and we brought him all over the place. And recently I found some photographs, and I thought, what is this bear doing at the beach with the Golden Gate Bridge behind it? I thought, oh, it was the bear before we sent him on. Very exciting project.
Good. Yeah. Okay. So thank you, Thailand, for teaching us about your teddy bear project.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about culture before we move into our next activity. And I mentioned before one of the aspects of culture is how we use it to communicate in day-to-day interactions. And so I'd like to share this definition with you. Culture and communication are inseparable because culture helps to determine how people encode messages, their meaning for messages, and the conditions and circumstances under which messages may or may not be sent, I think we're missing a word there, noticed or interpreted. And this is something I think some of us overlook when we're teaching culture. We focus on some of the customs and behaviors, but we miss some of the smaller things. I'd like to share a couple of examples that I learned when I was in Thailand just through my own personal experiences. One of them was I was teaching there, and I came to work one day, and my wonderful colleague, nice person, said to me, "I'm so sorry your cat died." But when he said it, he had a big smile on his face, and he said something like, "I'm so sorry that your cat died." And I was shocked because, not because of his words were perfect. My cat had died recently, and I felt sad. His words were exactly what he should be saying to me to make me feel comfortable, but his smile was inappropriate, and it shocked me.
Well, and I had inappropriate by your
thank you
by
for
your
correcting.
culture,
yes, and so no,
by your expectations.
My expectations, yeah. And so there was a mismatch there. So that really opened my eyes to how important facial expressions are. Smiles mean a lot.
And I think when we have these mismatches, so if it's part of a teddy bear project, if it's part of interpreting a visual image that you're looking at or a communication, that's where it's really interesting to explore. So
good point.
Yeah, why was there a mismatch, or what was there about it? So it's not that one culture is ever right or one is ever wrong. It's that, oh, look, there's this way we do things the same, and then there's this way we do things differently. Yeah. And isn't that interesting?
Yes, and that's just the approach you want to take in the classroom, that one culture is not wrong and the other right, or one is good and one is bad. They're just different.
They just
and
are.
The important thing is to explore the differences and not judge them. Thank you for pointing that out. The other one I wanted to mention was in U.S. culture, if you bump somebody or if you step on their foot when you're out in public, you're expected to say, "Excuse me." And you wouldn't do this, usually not with a smile on your face. It might be misinterpreted that you thought it was funny that you bumped into them. Yeah. But I learned when I was in Thailand that when people accidentally bump into somebody or step on their foot, just a nice smile is enough of an interaction to make it fine. And so it's another.
So a smile can have many meanings in many different contexts.
Yeah. I think if you did in the U.S., if you bumped into someone or stepped on their foot and just smiled at them, there might be a misunderstanding. Yeah. So it's very interesting. What do I want to say about this one? Here's a nice argument for including culture in your language class. It's insufficient to promote the use of English as a mere linguistic tool. Rather, its function as a means for intercultural understanding and communication should be further expanded into one that incorporates intercultural awareness and understanding as well. Okay, I think I illustrated that with the last examples. But here is where I want to talk about something kind of tricky about this, and that is our target language here is English, but what is the target culture? Which culture? There are many cultures that are associated with English language. We have North American culture, we have U.S., we have Canadian, we have British culture, we have Australian culture, there are other countries who speak English as their primary.
In India,
Sure.
Many countries are adopting English as a second language.
What about all those countries? What if your students are communicating with people who are using English as a second language that are not coming from a country where English is the native language? These are things to be aware of and consider when you're making decisions about what to teach in your class. Don't just assume that maybe the textbook that you have is correct. Think about who wrote it, where did it come from. Think about who your students are. Who will they be using English with when they use it? So things to consider.
We had a really nice project early on in this series where one of the teachers had, as a project, had their students use English after the tsunami to go out and using English to communicate people, help them with the things that they needed. So that was a really nice example of using English as a linguistic tool, but bridging culture and also providing assistance at the same time, too. Definitely making merits, that too.
Yeah, very impressive. So when we're getting our culture lessons together, we have to keep in mind that students benefit most when our culture lessons and the cultural aspects of our language teaching are well planned and developed, which is true for all of your lesson. And I think most of us are not teaching English culture classes, so we have to find good places in our language classes to slip in some interesting cultural activities. So we'll be talking about ways to do that. Keep some goals in mind when we're planning our lessons. We must help students gain knowledge of the target language culture. Remember, you have to figure out what is that target culture before you plan your lesson. Develop skills in communication and behavior in the target language, and also become aware of dynamic nature of all cultures. We don't want to encourage our students to stereotype. We want to encourage them to explore culture. So we'll make sure that we find ways of doing that. Perhaps you read the articles that were posted online, and there's some wonderful suggestions in them. But I think all teachers, when we're reading those, we think, oh, that would be nice if only I, had that time or had those resources. So we have to keep in mind.
Let's do a quick check-in. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You bring up a good point, the articles that we offered. How many people were able to, can I see a show of hands? How many people were able to get copies of the readings? Do you have copies of the readings? Raise your hand if you have a copy of the readings for this session. Not yet. Okay, so if you'd like copies of the readings, and they talk more about the core principles that Trish is describing tonight, and also some of these challenges and some of the practical ideas as well, be sure to go to the supporting website, and I can give you that at the end again. Go to the supporting website. We have the pedagogical articles that support what she's talking about, and also some readings on the practices that she'll be mentioning at the end, too.
Thanks. Okay. So some challenges we have to keep in mind. We're very busy. We don't have that much time to prep and put together incredible lessons all the time. Some of us don't have easy access to practical activities. Some of us might feel a little insecure about our own knowledge of the target culture we're trying to bring into our classes, or we may not just have the kinds of resources that we feel would help us the most. So we can perhaps talk about ways to get around that. I'm sure, though, that you are the best sources of how to get around some of these challenges. So
good, and I think some of the strategies we talked about last month in our content-based instruction unit, looking to authentic materials, looking to brochures, looking to news articles, to movies. We'll be talking about more of those, but ways to learn about the culture and inform yourself as well as your students.
Yeah. I love the idea of an ethnographic approach, and this means that teachers and students together become ethnographers or explorers about their own beliefs, about the target culture, and about their own culture. So instead of you having all the answers and know everything about a culture and filling your students' brains with that knowledge, how about you set up opportunities in the classroom where all of you can have some interesting explorations of culture. I think this is a great way to learn. And there are many ways you can do this, and many activities that come from these kinds of exercises.
I like that idea of open-ended exploration. So a lot of times our students have things that they can teach us or things that they find that we didn't know about.
And they can teach each other. They can share things they've heard, seen, experience they've had. Next we're going to talk about something called cultural texture. And this might be a helpful way of thinking about bringing culture into your classroom. And we're going to think of 3 aspects to create a nice cultural texture. First of all, you're going to want to have a nice variety of information sources. Okay?
And we're going to be using this information in activity too, right? So this idea of cultural texture and these 3 different kinds of aspects of it. Hold this in your head as we're talking about it, because we're going to lead straight into activity 2, and this will be a direct tie-in with that.
Thank you. So the category of information sources, we have all kinds of different ideas. Some of them probably you're using already. Some of them maybe you aren't. So, of course, anything visual, video, DVDs, things on TV, TV commercials can be a wonderful source. Readings, internet, stories, songs, newspapers, other kinds of realia, field work. No matter where you are, I bet there's some kind of field work project you can come up with your students. Interviews, photos, and with activity types.
And maybe we'll pause here just for a second, and I'll ask Nardaporn if she feels like she needs to summarize at this point, or if we should go forward.
Yeah, let me summarize first. Thank you. อาจารย์ทริชนะคะก็ได้พูดถึง culture กับ communication นะคะว่าไม่สามารถแยกจากกันได้นะคะการสื่อสารกับวัฒนธรรมเนี่ยนะคะแล้วก็อาจารย์ยกตัวอย่างอย่างเช่นแค่การยิ้มนะคะ facial expression เนี่ยก็ตีความได้หลากหลายนะคะในหลายวัฒนธรรมอย่างของเรานี่ยิ้มตลอดนะคะแล้วก็ยิ้มด้วยความหมายที่ดีแต่ก็ชาติอื่นอาจจะตีความต่างกันไปนะคะแล้วก็อาจารย์ก็บอกว่าเราก็ควรจะแนะนำหรือว่าสอนเด็กให้รู้จักที่จะหาความแตกต่างนะคะของวัฒนธรรมนะคะนอกจากเรียนรู้ภาษาต่างประเทศแล้วเนี่ยก็เรียนรู้วัฒนธรรมเข้าไปด้วยนะคะในส่วนอย่างไรก็ตามนะคะในการที่จะสอนวัฒนธรรมแทรกเข้าไปในการสอนภาษาอังกฤษเนี่ยพวกเราก็ต้องทราบว่าพิจารณาว่าจะสอนอะไรแล้วก็มีความเหมาะสมแค่ไหนนะคะแล้วก็อย่างเช่นยกตัวอย่างว่าในคอร์สบุ๊กที่เราcommercial course books อย่างเนี้ยนะคะที่เขาทำเขียนมาเนี่ยในนั้นเนี่ยอาจจะมีวัฒนธรรมอะไรที่ไม่เหมาะสมนะหรือว่าเหมาะสมเราก็ต้องเลือกรู้จักที่จะเลือกนะคะให้ใช้ให้เหมาะสมที่สุดแล้วก็พยายามที่จะสอดแทรกนะคะวัฒนธรรมเข้าไปในการเรียนการสอนในห้องเรียนทีนี้อาจารย์ก็พูดถึงchallenges นะคะที่คือข้อจำกัดบางอย่างนะซึ่งเราอาจจะมีอย่างเช่นว่าเวลาเราจำกัดในการเตรียมบทเรียนเนี่ยอาจารย์ก็บอกเดี๋ยวนี้ก็มี access มีซอสเยอะแยะนะที่เราจะหาข้อมูลได้หาอะไรเกี่ยวกับวัฒนธรรมที่เราจะมาสอนเด็กได้นะคะอย่างจากอินเทอร์เน็ตเป็นต้นแล้วก็ในส่วนอาจารย์เลสลี่ก็มาย้อนถึง content based ในเซสชันที่แล้วนะคะที่เราพูดถึง authentic materials นะพวกโบรชัวร์พวกอะไรอันนั้นก็จะมีวัฒนธรรมอยู่ในนั้นนะคะซึ่งเราจะนำมาใช้ได้นะคะแล้วก็อาจารย์ทริชก็พูดถึง cultural texture นะคะถ้าอาจารย์ดูใน handouts จะอยู่ในหน้าที่ 3นะคะที่อันแรกซึ่งอันนี้เนี่ยจะเกี่ยวข้องกับกิจกรรมที่อาจารย์จะให้ทำนะคะอันแรกก็พูดถึง source information source ซึ่งมีหลากหลายมากมายเหลือเกินนะคะที่เราสามารถที่จะดึงเอาวัฒนธรรมมาผสมรวมกับในการเรียนการสอนภาษาของเราได้นะคะค่ะ Yes Leslie
Okay. Good. Okay, so we're back to cultural texture. We've got information sources, and now we have activity types.
Okay, so our second category is activity types. These ideas come from one of the articles that's on the site. This is the Cullen article, and he talked a lot about quizzes. And not quizzes in the way of you're testing your students' knowledge, but quizzes to find out what they know and what they don't know, but it's a fun activity. It's not nothing punishing about it. So he's got some great ideas about that. Action logs are another way of saying reflection journals. So when you are covering topics of culture in your class, ask your students to reflect on that, do some writing. Teacher can also respond to that. Reformulation, noticing, prediction. Leslie reminded me that you had spent a lot of time on critical thinking, Bloom's taxonomy. These fit right into that. Reformulation refers to having your students retell what they learned in their own words, okay? Noticing is a wonderful activity. It really fits well with video. So if you show a commercial or a short scene from a film in your class, you ask your students to focus on particular aspects so that they really become aware of what's going on. Prediction, I think a lot of you use that already, is to find out what students know and get them excited about what they're going to be learning. And then research, all kinds of research projects on the internet, in the library, to get them independently working on some of these projects. It can be really inspiring. Of course, all kinds of other activities, games, role plays, field trips, songs, readings, listenings, discussion, things that I think you are using already in your classroom fit very nicely into a culture lesson.
Okay. So we've got information sources, we've got activity types, and we're going to talk about selling points.
Yeah, this is a little bit, different, but I think it's very worthwhile. And this is a way of, as I mentioned earlier, we don't want to do oversimplification. We don't want stereotypes in our classroom. We want our students to really see a culture from many different angles. And so one way to do that is to, when you bring in a cultural point, make sure that you bring in a contrasting view. So for we were talking about the houses, right? History, a traditional Thai house versus a modern Thai house. Older versus younger generations. You know, you can't say, oh, all Americans like to do this. Well, maybe the majority of older generation do, but the younger generation has an idea. City versus country life can be very different. Stated beliefs versus actual behavior. This sort of fits in about what I mentioned earlier with we're not always aware of our own cultural beliefs. You know, we might say, oh, well, you know, all Americans do this, but if you really observe what a person does, they may not do that at all. So that can be a very interesting area for research. Similarities versus differences. Also, maybe positive and negative aspects of a culture. Not just all the happy, cheerful things, but maybe there's a negative aspect, too, that you want to bring in and explore for a balance.
Okay, good. So, activity number 2. So thinking about this idea of texture, and the thing I like about texture is, for me, it sort of invokes this idea of a tapestry or something that's woven, like kind of like Thai silk. So there are things that go this way, there are things that go this way, and there's some depth to it as well. So not just up on the surface, but trying to get at the ebb and flow, some of the differences. So going back to your network trees, so your network trees that you did in activity 1, let's go back to those, and let's try to expand them now. So thinking beyond one culture or one aspect of one culture, perhaps multiple aspects within a culture or two different cultures together, what kinds of information sources, activity types, and selling points or contrasting views would you choose to put with those in your classroom? So we saw some really nice examples. We saw education. We saw making merits. We saw houses and homes. We saw Mother's Day. So let's see if we can stretch those just a little bit further and think more concretely or more practically about what does that look like then in our classroom, and what are some new ideas we can maybe get from the people in our groups. So for those of you in Hua Hin and Bangkok, you've got your groups already to work with. Those of you outside of Hua Hin and Bangkok in other schools in China or Laos or Vietnam, wherever you're watching from, get back together in your groups and go back to your first activity information, your network tree, and think about these 3 items. So let's do a quick check-in with Naraporn and Sarada. Naraporn and Sarada, is it clear? Are you okay?
Yeah. Yes, I think Hua Hin is fine, Ka. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll leave this slide up on the screen, and we'll give you about 5 minutes to go back to your network trees and see what kinds of information and activity and contrasting views you can come up with. And then I think we'll have time to check in with a couple of groups, maybe one group in each place, before we sign off for the night, or the morning. Okay.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, let's go.
Yeah, Leslie, one question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Lynette, could you put this slide down for a minute? Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the participants choose just one type of cultural texture, right?
Well, what we'd like them to do is go back to their network trees.
Yeah.
And each group had different results in their network tree, so they should just go back to that. If after listening to Trish, you got another idea in your head, a different topic, and you want to do another quick network tree on a different topic, that's fine. But try to expand it out beyond just the concepts and try to think in terms of where do I get the information, where do I get the materials? What do the activities look like? Am I doing quizzes? Am I doing games? Am I doing interviews? Am I doing surveys? What am I doing? And then how am I going to incorporate contrasting views? Because this is really important, that there's not just one way or one view, even within a single culture. So how am I going to get multiple perspectives around the same kinds of concepts? Does that help?
Yeah, I'm confused with the question, what cultural texture items did your group choose? I think, we are looking at those 3, all 3, not just one, right?
Okay. Yeah, no, you can look at all the different trees. The different groups can look at the different trees.
Okay. Thank you.
And then all three different
all
categories.
All three different categories. Thank you.
Categories. Yeah. Thank
you.
And
if you don't feel, if one category, you have a lot to say about one category and not the other 2, that's okay. Work with what categories feel most comfortable for you.
Okay, thank you. ค่ะอาจารย์คะก็ใช้ activity เดิมนะคะเป็นหลักแล้วก็อาจารย์ก็ดูว่าอาจารย์จะหาซอสจากไหนได้นะคะจะทำ activity ไทยแบบไหนหรือว่าจะ contrast ยังไงนะคะค่ะในหัวข้อเดิมนะคะใน tree เดิมของอาจารย์ค่ะ3 นาทีนะคะ Leslie, Bangkok is ready. I know that we're running out of time, so we're just right?
That's good. Maybe what we can do is get one example from each site, one from Bangkok and one from Hua Hin. And then looks like people were really engaged and excited. I'm guessing they're going to take this home and bring it back next time with some interesting homework ideas too.
Yeah.
Okay, is Bangkok ready?
Yes, sure, yeah.
Okay.
Good morning, Leslie.
Good morning.
From Bangkok, we would like to show you that we are comparing about Thai food and Western food. And about the information sources, we can find many sources from many websites, and then we can find the sources information from cooking books
And maybe when we watch TV, we can find information sources from TV programs. And then about activity type, we can have the demonstration, or maybe we can have our students to bring real materials from home. And the last, not the last one. So about the selling points, we are going to talk about the nutrition. Because from the about the Western food. No, maybe about Thai food. We have rice, and then we will talk about the protein and carbohydrate, and the Thai food hot and spicy. We have many spices in our food, in Thai food, and about eating style. And for Thai people, most of us, we have one plate meal, and for the Western, they have big meal. And for about the taste of the Thai food, or people all over the world will know that Thai food are very, quite hot and spicy, and Western food are mild. And how about cooking method? Thai food and Western food are quite different. And this is all from us. Thank you.
Good. Well, I really liked the idea of bringing television in, and especially cooking shows. And I know you have, the chairman is famous as a chef, and you run some cooking shows. Cooking shows are accessible. The vocabulary is very structured. You have a lot of activity that goes along with it. So that seems like a wonderful opportunity. I also liked it that students were going to bring in their own materials. And I thought your idea of looking at habits and styles and methods really opened some interesting doors. Yeah, yeah. Okay. And another way maybe to look at your contrasting views and your selling points might be changes in food and in eating habits over time. So I know one of the criticisms of younger versus older generations is that younger people, at least in the U.S., are eating more snack food and higher fats and sugars, and so we're having to do more education in the schools about healthy eating habits. So time changes.
I was also thinking about popular diets, low carbohydrate diets that are so popular here in the U.S.
Bad for you, yes. Yeah, good one, good one. Okay, good. Thank you very much, Bangkok. How about Hua Hin?
Right. We have the extension of the education network.
Okay, from Hua Hin. In my group, we talk about the education and cultural texture. We use 3 sources like activity time. Information sources. We use TV, reading, newspaper, and interview, and photograph. And the second is activity time. We use interview, questionnaire, and research. And the last one is selling points. We have interview. The topic is passion and money. So we have to use 3 cultural texture. Thank you.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
So Leslie, yeah, you've got it. So the last one, passion and money, they say it's applicable to choosing a boyfriend or lifetime partner as well.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Well, I really liked the variety of activity types that you chose there, in particular your research or inquiry-based activity types. So having students conduct interviews, surveys, and questionnaires is a nice way for them to gather information. And then they're required to reflect on it and analyze it and synthesize it. Now, this is not something that you're going to have answers for in the textbook. So this open-ended inquiry that's sort of guided but with many different possible answers and arrival points is a really interesting way to approach it. Okay. Well, I think that does bring us toward the end of our time with you here tonight. Trish has some concluding remarks she'd like to make in the form of practical tips, I believe, and then we'll be signing off.
Okay, just a few things to keep in mind and to encourage you in the classroom. First of all, remember to personalize the content. And this is what you were doing with your students in these activities where you connected to the students' knowledge, to the students' own culture as the basis for them exploring other cultures in the world. Vary your activities and, of course, adjust them to the level of your students, the language level of your students. Choose topics and activities that are very interesting to your students. I think you've done that. Use group work. Group work is very, very important, I think, in the area of culture. And culture is huge. Culture is everything, so you don't have to teach it all. Just pieces of it that work in your class that will be helpful for your students. You don't have to take it all on. Just small parts.
What seems manageable.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'd like to say thank you very much for joining us for this session. We've learned a lot from you as well. And we look forward to seeing your homework and your projects next time from some of you. It looked like you were getting some good ideas together. Yes. Yeah, so we say, Khop Khun Ka, thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Are there any closing comments or questions or anything you'd like to raise before we say goodbye?
Leslie, our teachers asked you to put up the website again, please.
Oh, put the website up again.
Yeah.
Okay, let me do that real quick.
Yeah.
Can you check while I'm doing that?
Oh, okay.
And on behalf of the foundation and all the participants here, I would like to thank Leslie and Trish very much for a very fruitful session and presentation today. And I'm sure that next time our participants will come back with lots of students' projects based on what you have taught us today. Thank you very much. Sawadee ka.
Okay. All right, and I'm getting the address up here. Let me go to the last slide so I can just get directly to it. There we go. So the address is thaiuofo.uoregon.edu. So thaiuo.uoregon.edu. So again, this is available. This is a public website. There's no password, no login. If you would like to have access to the readings, the handouts, the network tree organizer, the PowerPoint slideshow, and in the near future, a copy of the video conference itself. All of the package of the materials from today's session is freely available through this website. And we'd like to thank our sponsors at the U.S. Embassy, at the Royal Thai Distance Learning Foundation, at Chula Longhorn, and at Thai T-Cell for making this possible. This is truly a team effort, and we couldn't do it without all of us working cooperatively and with great cultural understanding together.